Hello, my name is Emily Marshall. I work in the ILC Writing and Study Skills Center, and today we are going to talk about run-on sentences or fused sentences. So essentially here they're the same thing. We typically call them run-on sentences, more of the more common name for them. But essentially what we're talking about here is when two independent clauses are joined together without any kind of punctuation or conjunction. So more about what those things mean in a bit, but for now, an independent clause is basically something that could be its own sentence if we wanted it to be. It has a subject, it has a verb, and it has a complete thought. So in this example here, she was not accepted by the college of her choice. This is an independent clause, okay? We have our subject, she, we have the verb was, which is a past tense form of the verb to be, and then we have our complete thought to really round it out. She was not accepted by the college of her choice. Here, though, comes the problem. We have another independent clause here. She decided to get a job. Again, she is our subject, the verb decided, past tense verb. With our whole thought, she decided to get a job. The problem is that these two independent clauses are incorrectly joined together without any kind of punctuation in between or any kind of conjunction word. A conjunction word would be words like for and nor, but or yet so. We actually like to have students remember the acronym FANBOYS to help them remember those different conjunction words: for and nor, but or yet so. We can often pair those conjunction words with a comma to join these independent clauses together. There are other punctuation methods as well that we can implement to help correctly join these independent clauses together, okay? So here we have a more detailed description of the issue that's going on here. Again, two independent clauses incorrectly joined together with no kind of punctuation or any kind of conjunction word. So this is now a fused or a run-on sentence. Next, let's get into how we can correct this issue. Thankfully, we have a lot of options. Number one, I think this is the easiest way and just go-to method to correct this problem. Just make the two independent clauses separate sentences. Okay, easy enough, right? Let's just put a period after the first one and a period after the second independent clause. Now, these are two totally separate independent sentences. Okay. Number two, you could use a comma with one of those coordinating conjunction words that I discussed earlier to separate or kind of join together those two independent clauses. All right. In this case, you'll see it's our same sentence as above. Now we have the comma and the conjunction word so joining these two independent clauses together. What your job then is to do is to, depending on the sentence in your writing, for example, determine which coordinating conjunction is most appropriate. Not every fanboy's word is going to always work the best in a particular sentence, okay? But here now we have she was not accepted by the college of her choice, comma, so she decided to get a job. This, again, totally works as another option. Number three, you could use a subordinating conjunction to, again, join these independent clauses together. Here in this example, the word since is acting as our subordinating conjunction. If you just go on Google, you can find a whole list of other types of subordinating conjunction type of words. But now what this does is adding the word since to the beginning of this clause. This is now all of a sudden not an independent clause anymore. This is a dependent clause. So what that means is if we try to have this be its own sentence, it doesn't work. See if you can kind of hear how awkward that sounds. Since she was not accepted by the college of her choice, if we just had that be its own sentence, it kind of sounds incomplete, right? It's missing something. This is dependent on this part here, our last independent clause, for this whole sentence to work, okay? You'll notice we still have the comma here after choice, along with that subordinating conjunction since, all right? Number four, you could use a semicolon in between the two independent clauses. So here we have a semicolon after the first independent clause and our period after the second independent clause to finish out the sentence. The difference between an semicolon and a period I like to describe is a semicolon is not as hard of a break or stop as a period. It's very similar to a period. It separates two independent clauses, but it's a nice choice to use here because these two independent clauses are very much related and connected, okay? Again, in my mind, I always like to remind myself that periods really totally separate and differentiate sentences, right? Whereas a semicolon kind of connects similar thoughts or ideas, all right? Final option, we can keep that semicolon where it is in number 4 here, or we could also add a conjunctive adverb. So what's a conjunctive adverb? It's this word here, therefore. So it's following our semicolon from number 4. It also has a comma after it. Okay, so other words that you could use here would be words like moreover, in other words, thus. There are other types of conjunctive adverbs or phrases that you could use here instead of therefore. But this is kind of a nice option because, it adds, a nice little transition here before we go on to our next independent clause. All right. Let's practice now. So we're going to look at one sentence here together and see how we can implement these different suggestions for fixing a run-on or a fuse sentence. So we're going to look at number 2 here. You'll notice on this sheet there are other types of sentence structure issues that we're going to get into in a different video about comma splices, so hang tight for that. But number 2, let's look at this one for now. The man with the flag in his hand is not to be trusted. He has harmed 2 people who disagreed with his ideas. So hopefully even just me reading that out loud, you can kind of hear there's some kind of issue going on, right? Yes, in fact, there is. So first, before we figure out how to fix the problem, let's identify where our independent clauses are. This is our first independent clause. The man with the flag in his hand is not to be trusted. Why does it work as an independent clause? We have our subject, who, the man. What about him? What's he doing? He is, here's our verb, he is not to be trusted. Okay, we have our whole complete thought here as well, our subject, verb, and our complete thought. This works as an independent clause. It could be its own sentence if we wanted it to be. So could this part. He has harmed 2 people who disagreed with his ideas. Again, we have our subject, he, same subject. What's our verb now? What is he doing? He has harmed 2 people who disagreed with his ideas. There's our finishing, concluding thought there, or our whole complete thought. So again, the problem is that we have these 2 independent clauses incorrectly just joined together here without any kind of punctuation or conjunction. Thankfully, there are a lot of different ways to fix it, as we just looked at on the previous page. We can just put a period here after trusted and capitalize the H, and now these are 2 totally separate sentences. Similarly, we could put a semicolon after trusted, right? Semicolon, he has harmed 2 people who disagreed with his ideas. We could also put a comma after trusted and add a conjunction word. We could say something like, the man with the flag in his hand is not to be trusted, comma, for he has harmed 2 people who disagreed with his ideas. Another option, you could also just kind of rewrite the sentence to be a little bit different. We could add the word because. The man with the flag in his hand is not to be trusted because he has harmed 2 people who disagreed with his ideas. All right. So hopefully you can see here, the nice thing about this rule is that there are a ton of different ways to correct the problem. You can even just totally rewrite the sentence if you'd like, okay, to make it a whole complete sentence, right, with a subject, verb, and a complete thought. All right. Good luck. Let us know if you have any questions, and stay tuned for other related grammar videos, including one on comma splices. Thanks so much. Have a good day.